good morning, everyone. Today, I'm joined by Michael Smith, who returned to Georgetown 2.5 decades ago, and since 1999 has worked in our Office of Institutional Diversity, Equity, and Affirmative Action. Today, Michael serves as the Director for Affirmative Action Programs and will be soon beginning a new journey in his life. So Michael, I'm so grateful to you for taking the time to join us in this conversation and for offering us this moment to say thank you for everything that you have meant to our community over these many, many years of our work together. And as you reflect on these years, as you get ready for retirement, you've been a part of our community since your undergraduate days for now more than 4 decades. Can I ask you to begin by describing for us what this journey has been like for you?
Sure. Thanks again, Dr. DeJoy, for this opportunity to have the conversation this morning and share my passion and background with the university. Actually, my 4 decades with the university even began when I was a Boy Scout in the early 70s. There was a Patrick Henry public speaking program that was held in Healy Hall. I was in the process of getting my public speaking merit badge. And so while we were in Healy Hall, I was enthralled with this massive structure, the beautiful architecture, and I remember seeing, it was on a weekend, and seeing the students. So I began to have this wonderful sense of Georgetown. I was very curious about who President Patrick Henry was, and looking at his history, finding out that he was considered the second founder of Georgetown, that he had gotten a PhD over in Europe, really expanded the university. And on a very personal note, being of mixed race, I am both African-American and Irish, and seeing that Patrick Henry, Father Henry himself, had that background was intriguing, although unfortunately, he never fully claimed his mom or his African ancestry, but that sparked a tremendous interest in Georgetown for me. And then in 1974, actually being admitted and accepted as a psychology major, I was enthralled, as was my parents, being first generation in college. And so coming to Georgetown, being a psychology major, happening to have the opportunity to work with Darlene Howard, who is still, I believe, a distinguished professor who's looked at issues of memory acquisition and in memory loss. And I worked with her on a project over at Holy Trinity, working with the elementary school kids, doing a survey on how children acquire memory. And so that was really an exciting time working with Dr. Howard. And I remember in 1996, when indeed I came back to the university, Dr. Howard teased me. She said, you know, in the 70s, Michael, I was learning about memory acquisition and being strained and put through teaching students like you. Now I'm learning about memory loss. So I said, I get it, Dr. Howard, but I mean, she's truly done a lot of amazing work looking at things around memory loss and things of that nature. And it's been really inspiring. Also, when I came back to university, it was kind of an interesting intersection. I had met Dr. Eileen Finridge a number of years prior. During the Gulf War, I was over at Howard University leading their employee assistance program. And Dr. Finridge at Georgetown had done some very innovative work, working with trauma and working with our staff and faculty who had been affected either by family members who had been in the Gulf War or had been traumatized themselves being in the Gulf War. And so having an opportunity to meet with Dr. Finridge, and then through a consortium of EAP practitioners in the Washington area, when she mentioned to me there was an opportunity to come back to the university as an actual employee, I was absolutely stricken with delight. And so went through the interview process and get hired. And working with Dr. Finridge, and my passion has always been doing mental health, doing counseling, being able to ensure that the faculty and staff that we've engaged have a safe place to be heard, that their sense of being marginalized, or their sense of struggle, that we provide them back then and still now with Dr. Finridge's work, with a sense of resilience, a sense of coping mechanisms to get through the daily struggles of life, and to provide them the tools and resources, the cognitive tools and the behavioral tools, if you will, to go on and to do better in their work and in their lives. So that was really exciting. And also in the course of doing employee assistance program work, I had an opportunity to do some diversity work, some diversity programming. And so by 1999, decided to kind of switch gears. And I saw that there was a vacancy, and then the Office of Affirmative Action Programs with Rosemary Kilkenny, then the special assistant to the president for affirmative action programs. And it was interesting, I'll tease Rosemary about her name. I saw Rosemary Kilkenny and I thought, wonderful Irish name. I can't wait to meet Miss Kilkenny, only to realize Miss Kilkenny was a lovely Ghanaian woman from Guyana. And so wonderful partnership. It's been tremendous all these years working for Rosemary, having the leeway, latitude, and trust to expand my skills in so many different ways, whether it's been working with Rosemary and other colleagues in IDEA to do investigations, to do accommodations, or being given the latitude to engage in many university initiatives and many university efforts. So that's been an absolute delight in that regard. And in my 24 years, indeed, being able to be on the Martin Luther King Planning Committee, being engaged in other initiatives, the Sexual Assault Working Group, which predated the work of the Sexual Assault Task Force, which led to our tremendous work with Title IX and providing students with the tremendous resources they need to cope in that regard. So it's been a wonderful trajectory from the time I first came to Healy Hall as a Boy Scout to now walking out virtually and literally going into retirement.
Can you reflect on some of those moments that have been most meaningful, most seminal for you, both personally and professionally?
Sure, Dr. DeJoy. So professionally, I've always been amazed and very admiring of the community, how we rally around each other, how we support each other in moments of crisis. And I remember in 2011, the September 11th attack, how as a community we gathered in prayer and in fellowship to support each other. And I was honored to be asked by Dr. Fenridge to put back on, by that time I was working with Vice President Kilkenny, to put back on my EAP counselor role and to help Dr. Fenridge in the work of providing mental health and other supportive services to the university community during that time of crisis. And so that was, for me, a great professional moment. Also, professionally working in the realm of dealing with issues around sexual assault and sexual misconduct. I remember in April of 2011, the Department of Education came out with its Dear Colleague letter, reminding universities and colleges of our obligations to follow the Title IX regulations. And at that point, gathering with colleagues in human resources and colleagues in the Office of General Counsel to look at our policies and procedures related to sexual misconduct and sexual assault, and developing new policies, making sure we had Title IX coordinators throughout the university community. And I was honored around that time too for Dr. Todd Olson, the Vice President for Student Affairs, to ask me to join the Sexual Assault Working Group, initially as a member, and then I believe the latter part of 2015, early 2016, to co-facilitate the Sexual Assault Working Group with Dr. Dilma Yearwood, who's a faculty member over in the School of Nursing and Health Studies. And at that time, Hallie Mattis, who was a student co-facilitator. And we did some preliminary work looking at, again, bystander intervention, how we could strengthen our work in that regard. But I know the latter part of 2016, you established the Sexual Assault and Misconduct Climate Task Force, which really took off. By that time, I think we had hired our first Title IX coordinator. We had also hired our first Title IX investigator. We expanded services within health ed services to our student population related to sexual assault. And so we really got underway, particularly with that task force, and doing a lot of tremendous work to make sure that our students felt safe and protected, and that when unfortunately incidents of sexual assault happened, that we had tremendous resources and services available to them. And then also, being able to engage in the work of doing diversity, whether it's been doing training, implicit bias training, being able to be available to help faculty and staff and other members of the university community when they have felt slighted, when they have felt as if in real time or feeling as if they have been marginalized and discriminated. And one of the things I've often valued in working with faculty, staff, and other members when they've come to IDEA with the feeling of being discriminated or harassed or marginalized is giving them the room and space to feel heard. that whatever their life or work experiences are their lived experiences, and being able to, in a non-judgmental way, hear them out, provide them the opportunity to have their grievance, do a thorough investigation, and make some determination whether indeed, unfortunately, policies have been violated or not. But hopefully, in the process of hearing them out and respecting them through that process, they have felt a sense of being heard and regarded. So those are some of the professional. And on the personal level, when Father Phil Burrows was around, I believe he was our first vice president for mission and ministry, I was honored and delighted in 2013 to be asked to join the 19th Annotation Retreat Program, and an opportunity to learn more about the Ignatian values, the spiritual exercises, and joining in community with colleagues to learn more about the Ignatian tradition. That was a great experience. You were asked for 30 minutes each day to pray. And as a former Catholic, sometimes I wasn't getting the prayer right. It was, should I go, Our Father art in heaven, forgive me? Or as Tony Moore, who was my spiritual director, helped me to understand that we find God in life experiences. We find God in the steps we take, the people that we encounter. It's not a magical prayer and you get an answer, but it's through, as Ignatian taught us, a sense of discernment, a sense of internal reflection and introspection. And so that really was a very transformative experience for me in terms of my own spiritual journey. And then also being involved with the Shaping and Advancing Georgetown Executives, or the SAGE program. I was delighted to be in the second cohort, and I believe it was 2015 or 2016. That was an invaluable experience that allowed for more professional growth, an opportunity to network with colleagues across different operational levels. I mean, on my team was Eddie Maloney from Candles, Phyllis Barrow from Lounge Library. I don't think she's with us any longer, Rachel Pugh from the Office of Communications. So coming together to work on a real life project that could benefit the university community was very exciting and exhilarating. And then finally, on a very personal note, not only being an alum, but to have my youngest son to become alum too. He was a graduate of the McDonough School of Business as an undergrad. He now works for the French National Bank up in Manhattan, doing quite well. My oldest son had also hoped to have gone to Georgetown, but through a Journey of Adulthood program through our church, he got involved in the civil rights movement, and so ended up going to Morehouse College and has done tremendous work in civil rights and for the federal government as Federal Trade Commission employee. So those are some of the personal and professional things that have really touched me in my work and my life experience here at the university.
Congratulations on all that you've just shared with us. Now, I know too, you mentioned the Martin Luther King Jr. Initiative. You've contributed to a range of other important issues and initiatives over the years, including the African American Advisory Board and co-leading our Martin Luther King Jr. Initiative. Can you talk about some of the ways that you approached your work? What are some of the values and ideas that have been most important to you?
Thanks. One of the things, again, having gone through the Ignatian experience, the 19th annotations, being appreciative of, again, everyone's lived experiences and wanting to ensure that people have a sense of being heard and regarded. I think one of the ways I've always approached my work has been with a sense of humility. Even though, I'm no longer a counselor, as I mentioned, making sure that everybody feels heard. And the other thing I think I've always done in my work is being a servant leader, making sure that I'm promoting the growth and well-being of those that I'm engaged with by listening, by being reflective, by being empathetic and supportive. And so hopefully in my work in all these 20-something years at the university, those that I have touched has felt that sense of being a servant leader.
And can you talk a little bit about Ignatian values and how they've influenced your approach to work?
Sure. So, one of the things that I find has been the critical need for self-reflection, the critical need to make sure that we are in community, and in that community, discerning how each of us contributes to the mission of the institution, and how in the course of doing that, how we can respect each other's dignity, in each other's perspective. And that gets the whole notion of inclusion, which is part of IDEA's mission, that in including every voice and including every valued opinion, that there's a sense of belonging, there's a sense of contributing. And so hopefully, having inculcated those values into my being, that I've reflected those out, hopefully in terms of the work that I've done in my 20-something years at the university.
Now, you've had nearly a quarter century since you returned here for work. Would you have advice that you might share with the members of our community?
Now, one of the things I want to point out too, not only in terms of my Ignatian and Jesuit perspective, one of the people that I've often reflected on and looked towards their work is Hugh Prather. He was a American self-help writer. He was a lay minister and counselor, and I've often found consolation and inspiration in his work, whether it was Notes of Love and Courage, I Touch the Earth, Earth Touches Me. So some of the things I've taken away from him is, just when I think I have learned to live, life changes. It always throws us a curveball. And so being able to be, again, resilient and flexible, to be able to do those sorts of things and to live not for the results that what life brings us, but to be able to continue to function in a way that I am rewarded by whatever life throws at me. And so I think one of the things I would impart is to paraphrase Maya Angelou, and I think she once said, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." So I think it's critical that we all have a sense of resilience, even in the midst of what we're going through now with the pandemic and its major impact on the university community and living in this virtual existence of learning and working, but through it all, still having a sense of resilience and not being defeated by it.
Sure. Michael, we are so deeply grateful to you for your many years of leadership and service, and we wish you the very best and truly cannot thank you enough for your contributions to this place. As we close, is there a message that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, there is. In this message, Dr. DeJoy, I had actually shared with some of my colleagues in an email message that I was sharing as I was letting folks know that I was leaving the university. I wish each member of the university community the very best as you continue the mission of ensuring that racial and other injustices are called out and that every member of the university community has a true feeling and experience of belonging and inclusion.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. And thank you for being with us today, and again for your years of service to our Georgetown community and for the many ways that you have made us a stronger community. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. DeJoy.
And I look forward to being with all of you again soon. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you. For every Hoya, everywhere.